Okay, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Okay, can everybody hear me?
Walaikum salam, yes.
Okay, alhamdulillah, very good. The voice is clear, mashallah. I'm always amazed at the people who show up to this class, no matter what. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward all of you. Inshallah, today we have an audio experience for all of us. So alhamdulillah, I hope that will, inshallah, allow all of us to engage with our minds and hearts as we go back, inshallah, into um, okay. Okay, all right. So alhamdulillah, we're back. Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman. All right, so let's begin, inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم أجمعين. Alhamdulillah, what an absolute honor and pleasure to have the tawfiq and the ability to sit for a few moments with the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to go through its verses and to realize that we have all the mercy, all the shifa, all the rahmah that we need in our lives, regardless of what we are going through, right here in the pages of the book He has revealed for our healing and our guidance. So, with that, inshallah, let's begin with verse 52 is where we were at. No, I'm sorry, not 52, rather, we are on verse 51. Okay, so بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم سورة النحل verse 51 وقال الله لا تتخذوا إلهين اثنين إنما هو إله واحد فإياي فارهبون. And قال, he said, Allah said, لا, do not, تتخذوا, take, إلهين, which is the dual form of ilah. Ilah means God. So إلهين, two gods. Yani don't take, more than one God, basically. Literally two gods. Ilahain ithnain. Okay. So ilahain is two gods, and ithnain also means two. So it's just, an emphatic way of saying two gods. It's like two, two, two. That's literally what it means. Or two, two, because ilahain is already in the dual form, but then there's ithnain for added clarification or emphasis. Innama, surely or indeed, huwa, he, ilah, a God wahid, he is one God. Fa so me alone here, Allah switches to, speaking like about himself. Fa so me, farhabun, me alone is the implication. Farhabun, have fear of. Okay, so have fear of me alone. Okay, so basically the flowing translation can be, and Allah said, do not take um, two gods. Indeed, He is one God. So here, it's like Allah's in the third person, right? Because Allah said, so that's the third person. But then at the end of the verse, it switches to first person, فَإِيَّايَ, so fear me alone. So the tense changes, or the person changes, so to speak, grammatically. This is quite common in the Quran. And a most important thing is being brought back to the concept of Tawheed, which is really the crux of the ayah, right? Don't take multiple gods, don't even take two gods, take only one God, because there is only one God. So your job is to devote yourself fully and only to that one God. And then in the Quran, remember, whatever Allah prescribes is for our benefit. Whatever He prescribes is for our shifa, it's for our healing, it's for our benefit, whether we realize it or not, whether we like it or not, whether we understand it or not. It remains a prescription of mercy, shifa, that is um, custom tailored to the human creation Allah molded with his own hands, right? So if Allah molded us and created us, then he knows exactly what heals us and what ails us, right? So one of the best spiritual medications that we can take on a consistent basis is taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to fear him. فَإِيَّايَ فَارْهَبُونَ. So fear me, and if you fear me and you fear me alone, it's going to make you fearless of everything else. That is the beauty of fearing only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is the worst thing my enemy can do to me, right? This is a question Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah ta'ala, would ask himself and come up with, answers that were so comforting, right? If my enemies kill me, it is shahada, martyrdom in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If they exile me from my land, it is siyaha in Allah's earth, right? It is traveling in the land and the earth of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if they imprison me, then it is khalwa, then it is my alone time, my private time, my intimate time with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I get to be with him and him alone. So you see how Iman is what empowers you. Iman makes you the most powerful person in the world, not because you are powerful, not because I am powerful, but because we become connected to the greatest source of power, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But that can only happen if we're connected only to him, not to two gods, not to have divided loyalties, but to have unified devotion. So that is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is calling us to in this verse. Fear me alone, and you will become fearless of all others, right? Take me alone as your God. You will need nothing else, no other religion or ism or ideology or philosophy. Islam is enough. This is why Muslims don't need feminism, because feminism came to liberate women. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already did that in the Quran, right? We don't need other political philosophies because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already showed us the best way forward. Although, of course, in our times that needs to be developed because there is no platform for that proper explanation of that thought and implementation of it currently on the global scene. The point is that we have the templates. We don't need to go to deficient man-made templates or experiment with ideologies that are flawed, because we have the flawless prescription and roadmap right here in the Quran. And until we don't adopt the worldview of the Quran, we will remain confused, we will remain broken, we will remain scattered and maybe even shattered. So this is the only thing that Allah makes us whole, through which we can become whole. Because remember, Allah is complete and perfect, and we are incomplete and imperfect. But the closer we get to the source of perfection, the more whole we become. One of the du'as we make is Allahumma jabbir kasrana, right? Oh Allah, mend my brokenness. So it's only when you come in proximity to we don't even say that Allah is whole, but we say He is perfect. So the closer you come to that perfection, the less brokenness we have, the more whole we become, the more at peace we become, the more we are able to navigate uh, scary situations in a fearless way, because we fear only him, right? Um, and this is not, fearing Allah is not a fear that turns you into a person who's always scared, who's always diminished, always compromised. No, like we said, it is something that makes you the most courageous of all, makes you the most fearless of all, right? Sheikh Sadi comments about this verse that Allah commands that He alone be worshipped without any partner, right? Allah wants all of your love. Allah wants all of your devotion, all of your obedience, all of your loyalty, right? Strict monotheism. And so he establishes this by saying, by pointing to his exclusive bestowal of blessings, right? His absolute oneness. He's the only one that is giving us the blessings. He should be the only one we thank for those blessings through our singular devotion to him, right? So don't take two gods, don't assign a partner in his divinity. He's only one God who has the attributes only he has. He is one in his attributes, he is one in his essence, he is one and unrivaled in all of his actions. Okay, so he is one in essence, the only one in his names and attributes and his acts. So when he is the only one who is who he is, who has the names and attributes that he has, who has the acts that only he has and no one else can do what he does. So then you only have can, must, should, make sense to worship him, single him out alone in worship. So Islam is not about worshiping Allah, it is about worshiping only Allah. La ilaha illallah, right? There is no God except Allah. And we know the Quraysh worshipped Allah, yet the mushrikeen are in the in the hellfire. Why? Because they also had Lat and Uzza and Hubal and all Manat and all of the other gods. So that does not work in Islam. The devotion has to be total. So fear me alone. Sheikh Sadi continuing on this part, فَإِيَّايَ فَارْهَبُونَ. So fear me alone. Yani, fear me, what does fearing Allah means? Obeying him. There's no claim of fear and then acting in a way that you don't fear him. There's no claiming that, yes, we believe in his commands, but then acting practically in disobedience to those commands or falling short of those commands on a consistent basis. Obedience is to stay away from what he has made haram, to come fully to what he has commanded, and to do this all without any association of any other creature in the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because again, remember, it is ludicrous to worship another who is at the same level of createdness as we are. So there's really no logic behind shirk. If you think about it, it just breaks down in the face of logic. Okay, just a few notes on this tafsir of Sheikh Sadi about infiradihi bin ni'am, best rendered as his exclusive bestowal of blessings. So Sheikh Sadi mentions how he alone is the one who gives blessings, right? He alone is the true source of every favor. Every trial has hidden blessings behind it. Just like every time we think our dua is not getting answered, even Allah's withholding of answering our dua is a giving, because we don't know what He is saving us from. We don't know what He is marinating for us in the process. We don't know how His withholding, um, which we think is a withholding, in an answer to our dua, is actually him showing us something else, or bringing us closer to him, or giving us something better, or warding off some harm that we don't have the capacity or foresight to see, right? So what has to take over when things are not going the way you would like them to go is to open up our eyes to the opportunities that this trial is presenting, the opportunities that this situation, this difficulty, this not receiving you think an answer to your prayer, what can I learn from it? How can I draw closer to Allah through it? What are some of my spiritual attributes, my spiritual traits that I can enhance? Can I increase my tawakkul? Can I increase my reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Can I still continue to trust him? Can I still continue to say رضيت بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبمحمد صلى الله عليه وسلم نبيا? Can I still say that I'm pleased with Allah as my Lord, with Islam as my deen, with the Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as my prophet, right? Regardless of what we are experiencing. So every situation for a believer, like the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, is khair, right? If there are blessings, we are grateful, and that is good for us. And if there are trials and we are patient, that is good for us. And one who can be patient in trial is someone who has Allah with him or her. As we know, in Allah ma'as sabirin, Allah is with those who are patient. What that means is He will guide you through the trial. He will draw you closer to that through that trial, because Ma'iyya, the witness, the companionship of Allah, is with us when we are patient through trials, right? So that, and to remember, inna ma'al usri yusra, that with every difficulty there is ease. So Allah, yes, He tests us to elevate us, or to show us, give us other blessings that we could not have achieved otherwise. Sometimes that is just a greater closeness to Him, which is not just greater closeness to him. That is like the greatest thing that the greatest gift a person can receive, right? So al-wahdaniyya, absolute oneness, okay, of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in terms of the one who gives blessings, only Him. And so the devotion should be to only Him, right? And when we talk about Allah being one, it's not just numerical oneness, but like we said, it is uniqueness of His sublime attributes. And He is one, the only one who is Ar-Rahman, the way He is Al-Wudud, the way He is Al-Ghaffar, Al-Tawwab, Al-Qahhar, all of His attributes. Only He is that name, that attribute in its perfect infinite sense, and no one else is at all, right? And that way, subhanAllah. And then, of course, متفرد بالأفعال كلها, He is unrivaled in all of His actions. He is alone in performing every act of creation and every act of governance. Okay, so just as He is one in His essence, His names, His attributes, His acts, so must then, to summarize, we must single Him out in worship. So this faithfully preserves the a summary of Sheikh Saadi's Tafsir, right? And if you look at the practical manifestations of what Tawheed did to the former mushrikeen of the Arabian Peninsula, right? The Quraysh who were mushrikeen, and then many of them accepted Islam, right? Most of them accepted Islam. And this fearing Allah alone, worshiping one God alone, having taqwa and fear of Allah and no one else, it, like I said, it liberates from the fear of all others. And this is how the bare-footed Bedouins and desert shepherds and Arabs of yesterday were able to confidently march into the palaces of Qaisar and Kisra, into the palaces of Rome and Persia without fear. And subhanAllah, when Abu Bakr radiallahu anh sent Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anh to Iraq, and the eventual conquest that happened, this was in the 12th year of the Hijrah, right? Now Khalid bin Walid became Muslim in the 8th year, right? So he converted quite late, a little bit before the conquest of Mecca. So after that, he dedicated himself to Islam, and this, fearing Allah alone, being devoted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, and the kind of courage that was born from that, we can see in the letter that he wrote to the Persian commanders as after he was dispatched by Abu Bakr radiallahu anh to Iraq. And at that time, Iraq was under the Persian rule. And some of the commanders that he sent this letter to included people like Rustam and Mehran, the big other Persian nobles. And he wrote this letter saying, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, from Khalid ibn al-Walid to Rustam, Mehran, and the nobles of Persia. Peace be upon whoever follows guidance. I invite you to Islam. If you accept, you shall enjoy the same rights and bear the same obligations as the Muslims. If you refuse, then I offer you the jizya. If you accept it, you shall have the rights and obligation of the protected peoples. But if you refuse, I have with me men who love battle as much as the Persians love wine. Yani, we are fearless. We don't have a problem coming to battle and losing our lives. We love that opportunity to sacrifice ourselves in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as much as you love to sacrifice your intellects and enjoy wine when you indulge in that, right? So there is no competition left between two parties where one is devoted to the sensual, sensory pleasures of this world, and others whose bodies are here, but they're already, eager for the akhirah. Their hearts already have already traveled to the akhirah and are restless to meet their spirits there. So, subhanAllah, this is just one example, and so many examples in Islamic history. We can go on and on about that. That shows the type of fearlessness which is created inevitably when you become pure, sincere, having this increased devotion to only fearing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, let's move on to verse 52. وَلَهُ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَلَهُ الدِّينُ وَاصِبًا أَفَغَيْرَ اللَّهِ تَتَّقُونَ. And lahu, for him, ma, that, fi, in, as-samawat, the heavens, wal ard, and the earth, and lahu, for him, ad-deen, is the deen, wasiba, everlasting, permanent. أَفَغَيْرَ اللَّهِ is istifhamiyya, asking a question. So is it that غير Allah, other than Allah, تتقون, that you would fear? So the flowing translation for 52, to him belongs whatever is in the heavens and the earth, and to him alone is the everlasting devotion. So wasiba, everlasting. Here deen is translated as devotion. This is actually a very comforting reminder. Let me say that again. To him belongs whatever is in the heaven and the earth, and to him alone is the everlasting devotion. Will you then fear any other than Allah? So this is actually a very, very comforting reminder, because it tells us, reminds us who is really in control of this world, of this universe. It is not the forces of evil, although it may feel that way. It is not the force of darkness, although it may feel that way every time you watch the news or contemplate the state of the ummah. But in fact, it's not the forces of evil that are in charge, or Pharaoh would never have perished. Someone as powerful as him, as tyrannical as him, who held so much sway over the entire land, its people, and even the psyche of its people. If he was really in charge, if the forces of evil were really in charge, then he would never have perished, right? But he did. He drowned in such a complete, humiliating way. So, alhamdulillah, this verse is telling us that to Allah belongs that which is in the heavens and the earth, as well as that sea that drowned Fir'aun, right? All of it is under his command. So we have to remember this whenever we feel overwhelmed or depressed or pessimistic about whatever situation we find ourselves, individually or community wise or globally as Muslims, right? Um, Ultimate power is not in the hands of those who appear powerful. Rather, it is a test that is going to ultimately ruin them because of their transgression and abuse of that power. And one of the most powerful people, seemingly most powerful people that will ever appear on this planet will be the Dajjal, right? Masih Dajjal. But subhanAllah, he's going to be prevailed over by Isa alayhi salam, because the Lord of Isa is the one who's in charge. Pharaoh's not in charge. The Lord of Pharaoh is in charge. Dajjal is not in charge, even though he seems so powerful. The Lord of Dajjal, the Lord of Isa alayhi salam, is in charge. So Isa alayhi salam will actually come and slay this, being of apparently seemingly limitless power. And that narration is in Sahih Muslim. It's a very long narration. I would love to share it with you one day. It talks all about the coming of Isa alayhi salam, how he will come from the eastern side of Damascus wearing two garments, lightly dyed, and placing his hand on the wings of two angels. And when he will lower his head, there would fall drops of water from his head. And when he will raise it up, drops like pearls would scatter from it. Every disbeliever who will find his smell, his scent, Isa scent, will die, and his smell will reach as far as he'll be able to see it. And I'm reading the translation of the hadith from Sahih Muslim about the end of time. So this is actually an authentic narration. He will then search for the Dajjal until he will catch hold of him at the gate of Lud and will kill him. And there's a parenthetical addition here in the translation that um, speaks about the location of this gate of Lud. Can anyone tell me where, if anyone does anyone know where this gate of Lud is? Does anyone know where he's going to actually kill the Dajjal? Any ideas? If anybody could type it in the chat. I'm just curious to see if anyone knows where this was going to take place, this final slaughter of the Dajjal by Jesus alayhi salam. Anybody? Okay, I don't see anything in the chat. Well, you can look it up, but here in my translation, it says parenthetically that this is a village near Jerusalem, right? So, subhanAllah, very, very interesting. End of times is, the events are centered around Jerusalem. So, the point being that Allah is in charge of the heavens and the earth. And why is this comforting? Because, subhanAllah, He is Ar-Rahman. He commands only good. He is goodness. بِيَدِهِ الْخَيْرِ, in his hand is all good. All good comes from him. So ultimately it is goodness and khair, inshallah, that will prevail. And the situation is always good for the believer, no matter what they're going through, even if they're, may Allah protect us from the times that Dajjal will be here, but ultimately it will be victory for the believers, inshallah. وَالْعَاقِبَةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. And the ending is for the muttaqeen. It's for the people of taqwa. It's for the people who feared Allah. So if you want to be a winner in this world and the next, we must cultivate this quality of fearing Allah alone, always, and it will inshallah make us fearless. So, أفغير الله تتقون? Will you then fear any other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Will you then hold in awe any other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? In other words, as Maududi comments, obedience to God is the axis around which the whole system of the universe revolves. And we saw this in this surah when we talked about the shadows of things, of created things that cast themselves to the right and the left. We saw this in how everything in the heavens and the earth praises Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and fear, khushu, even inanimate objects that we don't associate with life or with tasbih of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even they are making a kind of tasbih that we are unaware of. Even the rocks, it is said in Surah Al-Baqarah, fall down out of fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, we don't associate consciousness with them, but subhanAllah, they apparently have this awareness, khushu of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we know that everything is in making tasbih of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, this is the natural system of the universe. So we can only find peace when we align ourselves with the fitrah of the universe, the fitrah of every created being, right? So people are asked whether fear of any being other than the one true God and desire to escape his wrath constitute an appropriate basis for man's life. Okay, so that's actually Maududi's tafsir for this part. أَفَغَيْرَ اللَّهِ تَتَّقُونَ. One translation is, will you then fear any other than Allah? Another translation, will you then hold in awe any other than Allah? So he says that people are asked whether fear of any being other than the one true God, if the desire to escape his wrath, is there anything else that would be an appropriate basis for for human life? Yani, fear of Allah, desire to escape Allah's wrath, desire to obey Him and please Him. This must be the basis, the foundation, the ground that we stand on, the most important priority in our lives, the most important priority in our day, right? Am I behaving in a way that is pleasing to my Lord? Because if it's my last day, then what does that mean for my night tonight in my grave, right? So this is a logical, sensible, intelligent thing to do, is to base our lives on taqwa. And then there is makhraj from every difficulty, right? وَمَا يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. If you want to have a life where we find ways out of difficulties, remember, we're not promised a life without difficulty, right? Life is a test. Things will be hard. We already know what trials are going to come. This is something we should expect. If we don't expect trials and tests, then we are setting ourselves up for failure. But if you expect trials, if you expect tests and they come, you're ready. We were not promised a life without difficulty, but we were promised, if we have taqwa, we were promised a way out of that difficulty. وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَل لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. Whoever fears Allah, Allah will make for him a way out. A way out from what? The implication is you will need ways out from difficulties, from tests, from trials, from sicknesses, from challenges, unpleasant things, right? But أَلَا إِنَّ نَصْرَ اللَّهِ قَرِيبٌ. The victory of Allah, the help of Allah is close, right? Inna ma'al usri yusra. With every difficulty, there is ease. La yukallifu Allah nafsan illa wusaha. Allah does not bear any, place a burden greater than one can bear, right? So all of these things are beautiful grounding tenets of our iman, of our theology, of what the Quran teaches us. And if we don't have these things, we cannot survive a day of this world. We cannot stand a day of its challenges, of its demands, of the commands that we have to fulfill on a daily, ongoing basis. But when we have the proper understanding, which can only come from Quran and trusting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, gaining knowledge and engaging in meaningful worship, where it's not just movement, but it is a connection, where it is not just ticking of the box, but it is a transformation of self. Because I present myself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala every day. I get to see the King of mankind every single day, 5 times a day. So that person who is meeting with the King of the universe every single day, 5 times a day, is naturally much more empowered, much more confident, but also humble. We are humble before Allah. He does not like the arrogant, as we saw last time we were in with Surah Nahl. But our confidence comes from our iman. Our strength comes from our iman. Being connected to the source of strength is what makes us strong. It is not that I am great, no, but my Lord is great and I'm attached to Him. And my attachment to my Lord makes me His servant, which is the greatest thing to be. So that is how and where our confidence comes from. It's not an inherent arrogance, because that's how Iblis messed up his forever. That's how Iblis messed up his eternity. He messed up forever, right? So no inherent arrogance. We have to know who we are, a creature made of clay, whose breaths are in Allah's hands and whose heart is in Allah's hands. And we can, we have no strength and power. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. There is no strength, no power except that which comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is what grounds us. And this is how we can stand tall, inshallah, humble before Him, and strong and fearless when it comes to fulfilling His obligations and not fearing anyone other than Him. Okay. Now, about this verse, Ibn Kathir says, Allah tells us that there is no God but He, and that no one else should be worshipped except Him alone without partners, for He is the sovereign creator and Lord of all things. وَلَهُ الدِّينُ وَالْصِبَةُ. Ibn Kathir mentions the opinion of Ibn Abbas, Mujahid, Ikramat, the great Mufassirin from the Sahaba and the Tabi'in, right? And the generations after that. And others, and they said that this means forever. وَلَهُ الدِّينُ وَالْصِبَةُ. Yani, for Him is the everlasting devotion or eternal devotion, or for Him is like, His is the religion, always in an everlasting sense. The devotion for Him is always, it's permanent, it's everlasting, right? Ibn Abbas, according to a report, said that it means it is obligatory, right? Yeah, and then Mujahid said it means it's purely for Him. Yani, worship is due to Him alone, and it is due to Him alone from every single inhabitant and creature of the heavens and the earth, right? Subhanallah. Amazing. Amazing. If you think about the dominion, if you think about His rights over His creation, really incredible power and qahar, that He has subdued everything, right? أفغير دين الله يبغون وله أسلم من في السماوات والأرض طوعا وكرها وإليه يرجعون. Right? This is from Surah Al Imran, verse 83. Do they seek other than the deen of Allah, while to Him submitted all creatures in the heavens and the earth, willingly or unwillingly, and to Him shall they all be returned, right? Like, how can you seek a deen other than Allah when everything else has already submitted to Him? Everything in the heavens and the earth has submitted to Him voluntarily or involuntarily, like those shadows which fall on the right and the left, right? They all submit to Him naturally out of their nature, out of the way they were created, right? And to Him is the return, right? So the best, by way of instruction, it is saying you have better fear associating partners in worship with me and be sincere in your obedience to me. Yani, fear falling into shirk. Make sure your deen is sincere only for me. It's like that ayah, وَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ, right? You know that that don't die except instead of Islam. And I remember one of the Imams, he explained this like, don't get caught dead without being in the state of Islam. Make sure you are fully, purely, truly, wholly Muslim, right? Ala lillahi dinul khalis. Verse 3 from chapter 39. Surely the pure religion, yani sincere devotion, is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Him alone, no one else. Okay, let's do a couple more verses, or at least let's try to do 53. وَمَا بِكُم مِّن نِّعْمَةٍ فَمِنَ اللَّهِ ثُمَّ إِذَا مَسَّكُمُ الضُّرُّ فَإِلَيْهِ تَجْأَرُونَ. Wa and ma, not bikum, with you, min, from ni'ma, blessing, fa, so, min, from Allah. ثُمَّ then إِذَا, if or when, massakum, touches you, when touches you, الضر, harm, fa, so, إليه, to him, تجأرون, you cry. Every bounty that you enjoy is from Allah, and whenever any misfortune strikes you, it is to Him that you cry for the removal of your distress. There is so much in this ayah that we can unpack. So, first of all, there is nothing that you enjoy, there is no blessing that you have except that it is from Allah alone. And most of our blessings, subhanAllah, we did not even make dua for. And I was mentioning this yesterday, how Muhammad al-Sharif, rahimahullah ta'ala, he used to say that if you had in your life only those blessings you had made dua for, your life would be pretty bad. Like, like it would be pretty mediocre or below average, right? It would be pretty low in terms of quality and blessings. Because think about it, how many things have we been able to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for? Yet we have received so much more. He has given us so much more than we asked for. He has given us so much more than we realize we need, right? We can only identify some things according to our current minds and understandings, but He provides for things we don't even ask for, that He knows that we need, or He anticipates. No, we don't say He anticipates. He has full, complete knowledge, but He gives us a much more than we can possibly even ask Him, right? So there's no blessing except that it is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تُحْصُوهَا, right? The way to understand blessings from Allah is to look at all the verses in the Quran about that speak about blessings, right? And the reality about blessings is that if you were to count them, you would not be able to count them. Number one, there's too many. There are too many of them. You will not be able to you cannot encompass them. And then there are so many blessings we don't even know that we have been given. They remain unknown to us. Like, for example, the very working of our mind, the proper working of our mind, the proper working of our bodies, the infinite systems and cells and processes that have to happen physiologically every single day for us to function normally. We're not even aware of that. So how can you give thanks for blessings you're not even aware of? And then to be guided to say Alhamdulillah from the depth of your heart, to be able to feel feelings of shukr, and to say Alhamdulillah, like it was said that every Alhamdulillah actually requires another Alhamdulillah to be said for the fact that you're able to say the first one, right? So it's this infinite cycle of complete inability to give proper thanks. We cannot even be thankful for the state of gratitude in the first place, right? Alhamdulillah. So, subhanAllah, there's no blessing except that it is from Allah and from Him alone. Yet, out of His infinite mercy, He said, if you're grateful, I will give you even more. So, really, the way to increase blessings, maintain blessings, and increase blessings is to just be super grateful for them, right? To become grateful, which we know, subhanAllah, we learned from Shaykh Akram, Hafidhullah Ta'ala, a couple months ago. We were with him, and he said, but I talked about the two types of shukr. And one shukr is the one we always talk about in this class, is gratitude. Truly is to not use blessings in disobedience to Allah, because that is not shukr. And I think I've given this example before, like if someone, gifts you a beautiful car, favorite model, favorite color, best, latest, everything. Um, and you say, thank you so much. This is, I've always wanted this. This is perfect. I love it. Jazakallah khair, right? And then you shake their hand and they walk away. And then you get into the car and then you run them over with that car on purpose. Were you grateful for that gift? Yeah, I just said thank you. I said Jazakallah khair. I shook their hand. I felt so much gratitude. But then look at your action. So the action is a much more affirmer or denier of the internal state of gratitude. The internal state of gratitude would be to use that car in a way that would please the one who gave it to you. And assuming the person is a good person, to use it for khair, to use it for acts of righteousness, to use it, to help others, so on and so forth. So that is really the marker. And also, the second a couple months ago was that shukr is not just to use it in this way for Allah's obedience, to use it in a way that is pleasing to the giver of that blessing, but also to share that blessing with others, right? This is part of shukr. And alhamdulillah, that is why, some of us have a hard time saying no when we're asked to share something or to teach something or to, give a halaqah or to give a class or to, is to spend your money if Allah has given you money, or to spend your talent, whatever skill set you have. It should be hard for us to say no, because part of gratitude for that blessing, a way to get increase in that blessing, is to share whatever you have of it with others, whether it is knowledge or time or skill or whatever it is that you have been given, to share that with other people, with Allah's creation. To be merciful towards Allah's creation is part of what is beloved to him, right? So there is no blessing except it is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we talked about how to express gratitude and how to increase our blessings, and how blessings are countless. ثم إذا مسكم الضر فإليه تجأرون. And then when harm touches you and a misfortune strikes you, it is to him that you cry for the removal of your distress, right? So to backtrack a bit, Allah tells us he is the one who has the power to benefit and harm, and that the provisions, blessings, good health, help that his servants enjoy are from his bounty and from his graciousness towards us, right? And then when harm touches us, we cry out. Then when harm touches you, to him you cry aloud for help. And this from Ibn Kathir, he says, the meaning being here, because you know that none has the power to remove that harm except for him. So this actually explains the purpose of harm and misfortune and trials and tests befalling us, is that it brings us closer to the source, only source we know can remove that harm. So they are sometimes means of Allah drawing us closer to him. So those misfortunes become potentially a way of nearness, taqarrub, closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they make us get in touch with our fitrah, and they expose the nature of this world. Because if the world is beautiful and filled with pleasure and comfort, we may become deluded by it of its true nature, may become deluded about its true nature, and forget that it is just a place we're passing through, and that it is filled with difficulties. And if life is always comfortable, then we may get attached to this life, and our connection with the akhirah may weaken. Also, if we have comfortable lives all the time, no tests, no challenges, no trials, we may also lose touch with our fitrah, which cries out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Its nature is to connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but too much comfort can weaken that connection. And so these tests and trials and harms and unpleasant things and misfortunes, they come to kind of get us back in touch with our nature. That your nature is to go back to the one that created you, to stay connected to the one who created you. Don't forget that. He is the only one who can grant blessings and remove harm. But we realize this more deeply when a harm touches us, right? We realize Allah's power of shifa and removal of harm and bringing of benefit. We realize this more in times of trial, subhanAllah. And this verse is saying just that, right? When misfortune strikes you, then you go crying to him that Allah remove my distress, right? That's why they say that there are no atheists on the battlefield or on a drowning ship, right? A person just intrinsically calls out, oh my God, right? Even nowadays you hear that phrase when there's something distressing or difficult or overwhelming, right? People who don't even believe in God or not religious, don't even go to church, etc. Will just say that because it is embedded in the fitrah, right? It is not just cultural, it is deeper than that. It is something that we are hardwired into believing and into calling out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help. And we also have this in verse 17, rather chapter 17, verse 67. وَإِذَا مَسَّكُمُ الضُّرُّ فِي الْبَحْرِ ضَلَّ مَنْ تَدَعُونَ إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ فَلَمَّا نَجَّاكُمْ إِلَى الْبَرِّ أَعْرَضْتُمْ وَكَانَ الْإِنسَانُ كَفُورًا. And when harm touches you at sea, those that you call upon vanish, except for him. But when he brings you safe to land, you turn away, and man is ever ungrateful, right? So if harm touches you, ضل من تدعون إلا إياه. Those that you call upon vanish, yani, not that those idols that are on the land, they disappear, but they vanish from your consciousness. They vanish from your mind. They vanish from your heart. They, you no longer believe that they can help you. You no longer believe in them or trust them or, think they are capable of removing you from that distress. So what situations of harm and difficulty and panic, what they do is that they bring you closer to Tawheed. They bring you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and our relationship with him, gets a fresh, a new chance. And, the environment, this required spiritual environment needed for spiritual growth is achieved when there is some harm and there's some difficulty, because you realize no one else other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can solve this. No one else can get me out of this, which is why the tasbih of Yunus alayhi salam was so effective. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين. لا إله إلا أنت. There is no God but you. There is no one else. Pure Tawheed, pure monotheism. Can you imagine the level of Tawheed, the level of, oneness of Allah, and how only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the God and the only one who can get him out of that situation he was in, right? In the darkness of the belly of the whale, in the darkness of the layers and layers, miles and miles of ocean, in the darkness of the night. So multiple layers and levels of darkness. It's not even possible for someone to come and help you, even if they could, even if they knew, rather if they, so let me correct that, even if someone knew where Yunus alayhi salam was, it wasn't physically possible for them to get to him. We still now don't have the technology to go all the way down, right? Successfully into the bottom of the ocean floor. Only certain creatures Allah has designed to do that, which was the hut, the whale, that Yunus alayhi salam was in. There was no other way for a human being to get down there, right? Can you imagine, subhanAllah, the nature of that trial, the intensity of that trial, and the ability that was then born because of the intensity of the trial to connect to Allah's Tawheed, to connect to no one else can get me out of here. There is no other God except you. La ilaha illa anta subhanak. Glory be to you. If there's no other God but you, there's no one else who knows that I'm here except you. There's no one else who can get me out of here except you. Subhanak. Glory be to you. How perfect are you? How much power do you have? How infinite are you? How flawless are you? How all powerful are you? Inni kuntu min al-zalimin. And me, on the other hand, I am among those who did dhulm by what was the sin of Yunus alayhi salam, is that he left the village that he was assigned to as a prophet before Allah gave him permission to do that, because prophets don't do anything without the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you're not allowed to leave when you're on duty. You can't just check out, right? You can't check out. You can't, when you're on duty until you have permission to leave. And so he was angry with his people and he left. And so he recognized inni kuntu min al-zalimin, that I was among those who did dhulm, yani upon his own self. Because whenever we disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are distancing ourselves from what otherwise would qualify us for his mercy, right? Obedience qualifies us or gets us closer. It's not really a qualifier, but it is something that brings about Allah's mercy, because Allah is merciful even to those who disobey and commit shirk, right? But it is something that brings us closer to Allah's mercy. And that's why al-aqibatu lil-muttaqin, that's why in the akhirah, it's only for the believers, right? Akhirah is for the believers. Allah's special mercy is going to be for the believers, people of Tawheed, people of La ilaha illallah. So there's a special privilege and status on account of the iman and the taqwa and the obedience, right? So one of the reasons Allah cites in the Quran for delivering Yunus alayhi salam is the fact that he was among those who glorified him, right? If he was not among those who did tasbih, right, it may have been a very different situation. So what we learn from that is, in difficulty and difficult situations, we should focus on tasbih, subhanallah. And don't we say that every day in our salah, every rakah, Sami Allahu liman hamida, Allah has listened to the one, has heard the one who has praised him. So praising Allah, our du'as, inshallah, increases the chances, inshallah, of getting accepted as he wills on his timeline. And tasbih, right? Glorification of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we learn from Yunus alayhi salam, is something to engage in times of trial, in times of difficulty, along with tawbah, because these are also words of tawbah as well, right? And they're words of acknowledgement of one's own dhulm, one's own oppression or wrongdoing, and that is what tawbah is. And then, of course, the start of it all was La ilaha illa ant, is affirming Tawheed. So Tawheed, Tasbih, Tawbah. So actually, they'll happen to start with T in English, so it's an easy way to remember. La ilaha illa ant, Tawheed, Subhanak, Tasbih, and Inni kuntu min al-zalimin, Tawbah, right? So beautiful Quranic prescription to ground ourselves in Tawheed. No, it is only him and us, right? It's only you and me, Ya Rabb, right? La ilaha illa ant. There's no other God but you. Subhanak. So glory be to you. So I praise you. I glorify you. Inni kuntu min al-zalimin, astaghfirullah. I'm from the zalimin. And this, inshallah, is a means of deliverance, right? As Yunus alayhi salam was safely brought out of a place only Allah could have brought him out from. And we find ourselves in many such situations in our lives, right? We know that there's no way this can be solved or resolved except by our Creator. And so we connect to Him through those trials and difficulties. So, inshallah, with that, we conclude for today. just a concluding thought, which is which is actually verse 54. Yeah, 54 we'll inshallah do next time. Okay, so it is 5 o'clock. So I'm going to conclude here. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it beneficial knowledge and be pleased with us and forgive us. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika. Oh, I'm sorry. I think there's a raised hand. Yes, if someone has the raised hand, you can definitely speak. I'm sorry. I think I just saw it now. Oh, okay. All right, inshallah. So if there's nothing, then we will conclude for today. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika. La ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilaik. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.